Okay. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Book Club. I am Rochelle Osborne, Sapphire Ambassador. And for those of you that don't know me, I think there are a few people on here that I don't know. So I will just introduce myself. I am Fallon's cousin. I am her level 1. And so, yes, I'm also Courtney's cousin. And I've been doing Plexus for 7.5 years. We have 9 kids, we homeschool, and we live in Maryland. So that's a little short synopsis about me, but I'm excited to go over How to Win Friends and Influence People, chapter 7 through 9 of part 3. So, hi guys, I'm seeing everybody on here popping on. Okay, so let's get started with chapter 7. How to get cooperation is what it says. And so I really like the first sentence. It literally says, don't you have much more faith in ideas that you discover for yourself than in ideas that are handed to you? And so no one likes to feel that they are being sold to or told to do something. They like to have their own ideas of doing it themselves, right? This is like toddlership 101, right? They want to do it themselves. It's their idea. They can do it. And we much prefer to feel that we came up with the ideas on our own. So the book went on to talk about Mr. Weston and how he was selling all these. He was an artist, and so he would sell sketches. And he went to this prominent buyer once a week, for what did he say? Every week for like 3 years. And the guy never bought. The man just never bought. And so finally he was getting frustrated. He's like, examining some things. And after 150 failures, he decided to try a new approach. And so he went in with some unfinished sketches and he asked the buyer's office to tell him how they would like them finished up and put it in a way so that they could come to him and tell him. And so the end result was they bought all the sketches. They accepted them all. And so he realized that he had been urging on what he thought they ought to have. And once he urged them to give them his ideas, then everything changed. So that right there, I have to say really fast too, on the 150 failures, is a plug-in for our following up, right? Like the fortune is in the follow-up. Like, do not give up on people, even if it takes 150 times to talk to them. All right, so the next part of the chapter goes on to talk about just planting ideas. The thought that came to my mind, I don't know if you guys have read her book or heard of her, but Vanessa Van Edwards, she came to speak with us at Ruby Retreat, I don't know, a few years ago. And she talked about kind of some of these things, like planting the idea, like basically priming is what she called it. So you guys can look that up if you haven't heard about her yet. She has her book is called Captivate. But you want to get them basically interested in thinking about these things on their own. And so the story then went on to talk about the colonel that was influencing the president, to where the president was then thinking of these things as his own ideas. And the colonel was like, hey, that's fine. I'm worried about results over here. I don't need the credit for anything. And so the president got the credit for it. And he went on to even give the president the credit for thinking of this, which I thought was kind of funny. But the point is that everybody wants to feel important. And people want to have their own ideas. They don't want to be sold to. So these are very good things that we can talk about within our business, also within our family life, with our kids, right? I know that my little, he just turned 3. So he says to me the other night when I was putting him to bed, and I was like, I gotta get the baby in bed. And so I was gonna let daddy put him into bed. And he said to me, don't you want to read me a story? Don't you want to read me The Fat Caterpillar? And it was just the way he said it, like he asked me a question. Don't you want to? And then I thought about it, I'm like, yeah, I do want to. And it's like the 3-year-old, he's not read this book, right? But it was just funny to think about, like in my mind, I'm thinking, wow, he's pretty smart over here asking questions in this way, right? Anyways, he's really cute. But all right, so the the principle for chapter 7 is let the other person feel that the idea is theirs. All right, so moving on to chapter 8, a formula that will work wonders for you. That opening sentence. Remember that other people may be totally wrong, but they don't think so. So this just kind of brought to my mind, like, perception is reality, right? Like, people have their different perceptions that they believe are their realities. And so, yeah, we can think in our heads, yeah, they're wrong. They don't think they are. So don't condemn them. It goes on to say, any fool can do that. Try to understand them. Only wise and exceptional people even try to do that. So it's wise to try to understand where they're coming from. Try to put yourself into their shoes. How would I feel if fill in the blank? How would I react if fill in the blank? So by becoming interested in the cause, we're less likely to dislike the effect. I like that quote you said in there too. So looking at things from another viewpoint is always important. It's just neat to think about just the aspect of a viewpoint, right? So like if I'm taking pictures of the kids and I am standing at, this angle over here in the family room and I'm looking at them this way, but we've got another person over here looking from this angle, looking this way. It can be a whole different viewpoint, even though we're looking at the same kids, right? So looking at things from their viewpoint. He went on to talk about the story of the wife and how she loved to do yard work and pull the weeds. And then he went on to talk about the boys in the forests with the fire. And just the way that these people spoke, the way that the husband spoke to his wife, the way that this guy was talking to the boys in the forest. But seeing things through another's eyes may ease tensions when personal problems become overwhelming. That's definitely true. I can attest to that. So principle number 8 is try honestly to see things from the other person's point of view. So that's chapter 8. I'm trying to get this done in 10 minutes. Y'all found that I had 10 minutes to talk. So I'm trying to talk fast over here. All right, chapter 9, what everybody wants. Again, with the opening paragraphs, right? It's that first sentence that always kind of gets you. But literally the first paragraph is basically the feel, felt, found method. I don't blame you one iota for feeling as you do. If I were you, I would undoubtedly feel just as you do, right? Like, I know how you feel. I felt the same. What I found was, that just reminded me of it. So people want to feel heard. They want to feel understood. They want to be cared for. I literally had to laugh on page 168 when he talked about how he had gotten the state mixed up when he was referring to Louise. We have a thunderstorm out here. Something just was a big crash out here. So, anyways, so the Louisa May Alcott, the city and the state, he had the city right, but he had the state wrong. And so this lady like rakes him over the coals, sends him this nasty letter. And he's like, wow, I am glad that I am not married to this woman. It just made me laugh. And he said, I really was going to give her a piece of my mind. Basically, I'm going to really tell this woman what I think here, but he didn't. He exercised some self-control there, which is always a good thing too. Self-control is the fruit of the spirit, and taming the tongue is an important skill to have as well. So something else that I had written down and underlined was, it said 3/4 of the people you will ever meet are hungering and thirsting for sympathy. He says, give it to them and they will love you. So I think about our kids. I think about if they have a boo-boo, they come to you, oh, I have a boo-boo. It literally just takes seconds to acknowledge them, like to stop what you're doing, to turn, get down, look in them in their little eyes. I'm so sorry that you have a boo-boo, honey. Give them a kiss. And literally, they're happy. They have had the attention that they need, and they are off and running. And because it really wasn't that big of a deal, right? That they made it out to look like it was in the beginning. But giving them that attention, and adults are no different, you know. He went on to talk about that at the last part of this chapter, that people are looking for sympathy and the self-pity, how they talk about their surgical procedures and whatever he was saying. So the long and short of this chapter is that sympathy is something that the human species in general universally craves. So principle 9 is be sympathetic with the other person's ideas and desires. And that is a wrap. I kept it to 10-ish minutes. So now we can open the floor to anybody that wants to share any of their takeaways. And I did not write down any questions to ask y'all, but definitely feel free to unmute and share your takeaways.
Hey guys, so someone
Go
else
for it,
talk.
Courtney.
If y'all can.
Okay, so I loved on 160, well, that chapter 7, where it says let the other person feel like the idea is his or hers. This is something with Fallon's always taught us with coaching, like, hey, instead of telling someone what their problem is, help them figure it out by asking the right questions. So really just letting them, they know the answer, so letting them come to that on their own. And then I really loved, what everyone wants is sympathy, because sometimes that's so true. And in this business, we can get so caught up on trying to help our level ones, trying to fix things, or here's what you need to do. I just did this the other day and caught myself actually. And I was like, you actually probably just wanted someone to understand that you're annoyed with this, and I just was like a husband here trying to fix it. So I did catch myself though. So, and that's why these books are so important, because even if it didn't make someone mad, like it could get really annoying if you keep doing it over and over. So just sympathizing and having a listening ear is so important sometimes. And sometimes people just want that. They don't want the fix.
Yeah, absolutely. I have to ask myself sometimes when whoever is talking to me, do you need to just vent, or are you looking for some answers?
That's a really good clarifying question. I'm going to have to use that because I think sometimes it is hard to tell, but I loved that chapter because I think it really it brings everything full circle with like where we're at, not only what we do with Plexus, but like where everybody's at in the world. We've been so disconnected for such a greater period of time that oftentimes like just being that one person who can be sympathetic and like listen and just not solve that problem. I feel like people just open up way more because you gave them that moment, especially more of the people that I talk to are moms. So moms of littles. So they just need someone to just kind of get that off and know that it's not going to solve a problem, but just having that, okay, here's my time and you heard me, and that felt, what was the last one? But you know what I mean? I think that was, I think that's just a really good like refresher, like Courtney was saying, like just to always kind of keep in mind and be aware of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Exactly. People want to be heard. They want to know that we care about them, that we love them. Such a good part of this business, the relationship part of it all.
I think it's good to have a balance, because obviously people are in our downline because they want success. So sometimes they need to vent and they need advice, because if all you allow is venting, then they're not going to get anywhere. So I think having that balance of both is good, but you definitely can't just go, okay, here's how you fix it. And you can't go and just listen to people's problems all day, depending what it is. Obviously, if it's a personal thing, yeah, listen, I still like to give advice, because I like it when people give me advice to like smack out of it, Belle, and you can't act that way, or, you can't be thinking like that. Nope, you need to do it. I think it's good to tell people the hard truths too at the same time.
Mhm. Yeah, sometimes you do need somebody to tell you that.
I really loved chapter 8. It spoke to me a lot, especially with being a leader. I feel like you're constantly learning how to communicate with others, and you're never going to say the right thing at the right time, but you can always try harder each and every time. And there was two things that he had said. He said, "How would I feel? How would I react if I were in his shoes?" And that made me really take a step back and redefine how I would come at a certain situation. I put myself in that position. And sometimes my answer was completely different by just taking a few minutes or even like a day or two to really just think about the situation and put myself in their shoes. And he also said on page 162, cooperativeness in conversation is achieved when you show that you consider the other person's ideas and feelings as important as your own. And I just really feel like listening to somebody instead of constantly talking, just take a few minutes to just hear what they have to say is really going to speak louder than if you continuously said something, even if you're right or not. Just hearing somebody else's thoughts and how they feel is definitely going to solve way more issues than thinking you're right all the time and talking over them. So this chapter really was amazing and just such a learning experience for me, and learning how to communicate well and just getting better in my skills each day.
Yeah, absolutely.
I had that entire paragraph on 162, the bottom one underlined. Wanting to express yourself in a way that you would want to be heard or listened to can be super important, especially when we're dealing with people of different generations or different backgrounds. When he's talking about you're only in charge of who you are or your background and all that, sometimes we have to like put ourselves in their shoes and think, how am I best speaking to them? And yeah, do you want me to fix it, or do you just need me to listen this out and you walk your way through it? Because sometimes if we listen long enough, they'll figure it out on their own without us giving them our advice. So that's always, something to think about.
Oh, I can't tell you how many times that's happened to me when I call Fallon about stuff, and it's like, I did call her to have her tell me some stuff, but then as I got to talking, it was like, well, she didn't even answer me. I just answered myself over here. Yeah. Well, these are really great chapters. I definitely think it's important to look at things from other people's, from their lens, and we don't always know, the feel, felt, found. I mean, there are things that we can kind of pull from, like, hey, I know how you feel because I felt like that too. But then there are times where we don't know what it feels like, and so we can try our best to listen and have that feeling. And so I don't know, I have a lot of empathy with me, and I don't know, I can't watch shows. I'm crying over here. I don't know if y'all have heard about like the mirror neurons, but like people start crying and I'm crying with them, and it's not good. And so, but even if you don't always, understand every single aspect of whatever the person is going through, it is just like we say, like we've already said, so important that we can just sit there and have that listening ear, But like Colin said, as far as the business goes, it is one of those things that you do have to have some balance on. And so if you are, you know, the person calling your leader, just remember that they have lots of people on their team maybe that they're trying to talk to, different coaching calls. And so, you know, or like if your leader tells you, hey, I only have 15 minutes because then I have to get on a call or whatever, like set your timer so that you are being respectful of that, you know, and it goes both ways, right? Like we both want to be respectful of each other's time, you know, but definitely you can't, there are going to be times that you do need to vent, but I feel like for me, what I've learned along the way is sometimes it's just best for me anyways, to just talk to God. Like, I don't need to talk to Fallon. I don't need to talk to my mom. I don't need to talk to my husband. I just need to talk to God, y'all. So that's something that's big for me. But all right, y'all. Well, I did let it sit for some awkward silence just a minute ago for a couple minutes. So if anybody else does not have anything that they want to share, then we're going to go ahead and end the call because we don't need to just sit here staring at each other in silence. This is it's a big step. 9:24 and we're done over here. Oh, don't like the silence. Yeah, exactly. I don't like the silence. Matt taught me some things though. He's like, awkward silence is a good thing. So okay. I feel like I can't take it anymore. My voice is half gone, so I don't want to talk too much. Okay, no problem. All right, you guys. Well, I hope you all have a happy Easter. And next week, we are going to be on part 3, chapters 10 through 12. And with that, I'll see you later. Happy Easter. Good night.